the religion. Fine. In the religion, we have a lot of literature is there. You have Purans. If in Islam there is a Quran, here is a Quran. You have Purans. You have epics. In Purans, epics, what you study? What do you study? You know about the stories. Stories, whether you see Purans or you see Bible, whichever religion you want to take, there are stories. Stories can be called as myths. Right? So, in the West, the intellectual curiosity was limited, and in order to satisfy their intellectual curiosity, people went in the domain of religion, and religion has created the myths. Myths means what? Myth is what? Myth is a story. Fine. For example, there is a story in ancient India. People knew how to make the aircrafts, and Pushpak Viman show how advanced the Indian technology, science, and all these things are there. So, in a way, what you say, these are the myths, because such stories are not based on logic. Fine. Religion is not based on logic. Now, to understand philosophy, you will first understand the difference between the myth and philosophy. What is philosophy? The quest for knowledge. Now, the quest for knowledge in the East got limited by the myths. In the West, the quest for knowledge went earlier, and the people in the West rejected the myths. So, one thing is, if I want to know something, I should contrast it with something. Wait a minute. If I want to know what is philosophy, I can at least say philosophy is not religion, philosophy is not myth. Fine. So, religion is not based on logic. Fine. So, religion is always based on faith. I think more than writing, you listen to what I am saying. My purpose is to explain you what is philosophy. The first thing to understand is the difference between religion and philosophy. Religion, the books of religion, creates myths. Religion is not based on logic. Religion is based on faith. So the societies in the East have advanced in the faith. All major religions of the world, be it Hinduism, be it Islam, be it Christianity, all originated in the East or in Asia. Okay? And religion is not based on faith, is not based on logic. Now, man has intellectual curiosity. Okay? Every human being has reason. This all of you agree? So even if you are unable to write, no issues. These things will not be asked. And this is only for your understanding. So every human being has reason. Can I say so? Will you agree with me? You will agree. Why? Because this is something which distinguishes man from animals. Now, in some societies, the quest, so every man has a reason, and when every man has a reason, every man will have intellectual curiosity, whether in East or in West. Fine. And whatever I am writing, later on, when we will study the ideas of M. N. Roy, you will start relating it. Fine. Intellectual curiosity. But in the East, intellectual curiosity was satisfied with the help of myths, stories, which you can, religion. So the Bible contains stories. Fine. Ramayana contains stories. I'm not very sure about Quran. Fine. Now, do you think that myths will really satisfy the intellectuals? myths can satisfy the intellectual curiosity. No. Fine. Rather, you will compel. You will compel people to believe. You can compel people to believe. And if you want society to be based on myths, we can also say superstitions. Religion can also be linked with superstitions. Fine. You can compel them to believe. How do you do it? Okay. You will not promote. You will not promote the culture of questioning. You will not promote the culture of questioning. If we talk about Indian society, do you think that questioning is encouraged? Do you think that in our societies it is considered appropriate to question the elder, to challenge the elder, to challenge your parents, to challenge your teachers? No. Fine. Now, this can be obtained in two ways. Fine. This can be obtained in two ways. Either by using soft power or by using hard power. So I believe that many of you may not be understanding anything. Is it so? So if you will not write and understand, because somewhere later these threads will be connected. Okay? Now, what is a soft power? The soft power is the way it has been done with the majority, let us say in India, in the name of dharma. Dharma. Dharma is what? Your duty. And it is a dharma of a son to act according to the father. It is a dharma of student not to question the teacher and do according to the teacher. Fine. It is dharma of the king to listen to the Brahmins. It is the dharma of subjects to listen to the king. Fine. Or sometimes when you cannot stop asking people the question, you can use hard power. Hard power means power of coercion. You create fear. For example, the way you can say ISS was doing, the way Taliban is doing, by creating fear. Okay. Now, when a person is not allowed to ask question, whose benefit? Is it the benefit of the person or the benefit of the other? Take a simple example. If parents tell to the teacher, parents tell to the children, go and do this, and you think that this is not right, fine. So you may be not working in your own interest and it goes into the benefit of the parents. Similarly, many of you may say, ma'am, you are telling wrong. I'll say, what an indisciplined student, you don't have a sanskar. Should you question a teacher? Follow me what I'm saying. It is benefiting whom? It is benefiting the person in authority, not you. Fine. So basically, not allowing the majority, if you talk about India, fine, not allowing the majority to question established the hegemony of Brahmins. It worked in the benefits of Brahmins. Please don't think I am against any caste. I am talking just about Brahmins, not as any particular caste or a person, but as a concept. Similarly, it is benefiting them. It is not benefiting the people. Fine. So actually, in the East, we do not see the tradition of questioning. In the East, we do not see the tradition of individual liberty. Individualism, individual's existence, individual has rights, individual can ask questions, individual can challenge those who are in power. So in East, we do not see this tradition. In East, we do not see democratic societies. In East, we do not see democratic families. In East, we do not see democratic societies. In East, we do not see democratic political systems. Even if there is a democracy, even if there is a democracy in the countries of East, it is a democracy for namesake. It is only in terms of the institutions, but not in the real sense, because we do not have the democratic society. We do not have the democratic culture. If I quote the father of Indian Constitution, Ambedkar, Ambedkar held that democracy is just the topsoil in India. We are not inherently democratic. Our politics may be having elections, but holding elections is not the test of democracy. Fine. So, in most of the societies in the East, you look into China, you look into the countries of Middle East, you look into Africa, you look into Southeast Asia, you look into South Asia, what will you find? You will find authoritarian governments. You will find totalitarian systems. You go to Myanmar, fine? Or if we take the example, India is the better of the lot. But you cannot say that Indian democracy is that great. Indian democracy may be great in the sense that we are at least successful in conducting the regular elections. But if you see the amount of corruption, you can see the role of money and muscle power. You can see defections. You can see horse trading. You can see the atrocities against the vulnerable sections. It can be women, it can be Dalits, it can be minorities, it can be children. And where you see that in politics, the dynasties rule. In politics also, you have to mobilize people not on the basis of reason, but on the basis of religion. So by no standards, we can say India is a vibrant democracy. There are so much restrictions on the freedom of speech and expression. The moment you want to speak something, you will be charged under defamation, contempt of court. Today itself is a very good quote of George Orwell in, I think, Indian Express, that what is freedom of speech and expression? That is the freedom to say something which other person does not like. So, democracy, you can say, is not in the DNA of the East. Hardly democracy succeeded. The only tutti-frutti democracy is there in India because we had the leaders, we had some form of, you can say, certain leaders inspired by the Western education. So basically, there is no DNA of democracy in the East. The tradition of democracy in the West. Fine? So, for some time, some countries tried to be democratic, but they could not sustain it for long. Fine? So basically, if we divide the forms of governments, we can divide the forms of governments into two types. One is democratic, other are non-democratic. Non-democratic. Non-democratic is a very soft word we can call these societies as authoritarian or totalitarian. What are authoritarian and totalitarian societies? Where people do not have rights. People live in the state of fear, where the focus is not on rights but on discipline. Fine? And even if in the East you have democracies, you can call it as mobocracies. A perverted form, not democracy, it is a mobocracy. The other word for mobocracy is fascism. Right? So, how and what the mobocracies, authoritarianism, totalitarianism, let us take example of China. You can take the example of Turkey. You can take the example of Afghanistan. You can take the example of Egypt. You can take the example of Saudi Arabia. All are examples of totalitarian governments. And totalitarian governments, they are sustained on ideology. Fine? Ideology in one of the classes I told, ideology is propaganda. Propaganda is a myth. So basically, not much difference between ideology or religion. This is the word of East. Fine. So later on, when we will study Hannah Arendt as a thinker, we will understand what is totalitarianism. We will understand that totalitarianism is based on myth, terror, and ideology. So, what is philosophy? Philosophy is search for truth. Philosophy is opposition to myths. Philosophy is the distaste for propaganda. Philosophy is the genuine search for reality. Okay? And philosophers they have to suffer, because philosophers will say something which is, philosophers are trying to tell you the truth, and this is what will not be liked by those who are in power. Fine. So philosophers have to suffer. Philosophers have to drink hemlock. Philosophers have to drink poison. If I take the liberty of interpreting Christ as a philosopher, so philosopher have to be crucified. If I take the liberty of describing Gandhi as a philosopher, so philosophers are assassinated. If I give the example of the intellectuals like Gauri Lankesh, who challenge the superstitions, they are murdered. Fine. So the journey of the search of truth is very difficult, and the life of Socrates is a story, or you can tells you that he is an example of the first casualty. Fine. He has to die. He was ordered to drink poison because of his philosophy, because of telling the truth. So what is Socrates? I will tell the different aspects of Socrates. Fine. So one other thing, Socrates is the father of philosophy. Socrates is a teacher of Plato. And because Socrates tried to tell the truth, Socrates is the first casualty of philosophy. The path of the life of philosophers, the life of those who know the truth is not easy. Those who are in power, they will always try to silence the truth. Fine. Suppose there is so much, you're talking about a case related to Vikas Dubey. And many people believe that the encounter was staged because he knew many facts, fine, or he had some information about certain politicians and all, fine. So what is, I have nothing to do with that. I'm not saying he was a philosopher or anything. Only thing is, those who are in power, they will always try to suppress the truth. And those who take up the path of the truth or a philosophy, they also suffer from the same fate. So Socrates, who was known as the philosopher, who was known as the wisest man on this earth, was sentenced to death for telling the truth. And the irony is, he was accused of misleading rather than telling the truth. One interesting thing about the Socrates is that he was sentenced to death, and there was a tradition in ancient Greece that the great persons, they were sentenced to death, but they were allowed to escape. Actually, we know nothing about Socrates because Socrates has not written any book. We come to know about Socrates through the dialogues of Plato. One of the dialogue of Plato is Apology. In that dialogue, this entire story is given. So Socrates is a person who had faith in his beliefs and who was ready to die for his thoughts, for his ideas, rather than to stop or to distance themselves from his thinking. So there is one very famous statement of Socrates that I will tell later, that is, unexamined life is not worth living. So Socrates said that I tell what I believe, and if you tell me to change your beliefs, it is better to die. So if I have to describe who is a Socrates, I will say the casualty of philosophy or the truth. So I am just conditioning your mind. I want you hear these words so that when I teach Socrates, you can understand, you can relate. You are already warmed up. Fine. So anyway, I will take you to something else, and I was discussing, trying to explain you the difference between East and West. East, the focus has been religion. Here the people tried to satisfy the intellectual curiosity through the religion, through the myths, and we see that they end up becoming the closed societies, and these societies, their progress stopped and they were lost in superstitions. On the other hand, if we see the West, the people in the West tried to satisfy their intellectual curiosity based on reason, based on logic, through the culture of debate, which led to the growth of democracy, which led to the growth of innovation, science, scientific revolution. So one major difference in the Eastern and Western thought is religion versus reason. Fine. So ancient Greece is a place of birth of reason, rationality. So what is the distinguishing feature of the Greek society? The distinguishing feature of the Greek society was rationalism. So write this question. What was the distinguishing feature of the Greek society? Write this question and write the reason. The reason is rationalism. I think you must be finding it quite difficult. My way of teaching is slightly different, and I hope later on you will enjoy it.